Hello, my name is Desiré Carroll, Director at the Centre for Audit Quality. We recently released an analysis of S&P 500 companies' ESG reporting. I'm sharing with you takeaways from the analysis and key information to know about the SEC's reporting leading up to the SEC's final climate rule. Let's start with the SEC's anticipated climate-related disclosure rule for public companies. You may be wondering, what does this mean and what are the implications for financial reporting professionals? Investors and other stakeholders are driving the demand for more transparent ESG information from public companies, especially environmental information around greenhouse gas emissions and companies' management of climate-related risks. The SEC's long-awaited climate-related disclosure rule for public companies is expected to help provide consistent, comparable, and reliable climate-related information to investors. The rule, among other things, is expected to standardize climate-related disclosures for investors, allowing them to better understand companies' exposure to risk and potential impacts to companies' business operations or financial condition. It's expected to require public companies to disclose information about climate-related risks and relevant risk management processes. Disclose information about how any climate-related risks have or are likely to have a material impact on financial statements over the short, medium, or long term. Disclose how climate-related risks have affected or are likely to affect an organization's strategy and outlook, and disclose the impact of climate-related events and transition activities. The rule is also expected to require a registrant to disclose information about its Scope 1 and Scope 2 greenhouse gas emissions, and, in some cases, also their Scope 3 greenhouse gas emissions. Lastly, the rule may require certain public companies to use an independent assurance provider to assure their Scope 1 and Scope 2 greenhouse gas emissions. While we wait to see if these elements are all included in the final rule, let's talk a little bit about the current climate reporting landscape in the US, starting with greenhouse gas emissions. Scope 1 emissions are greenhouse gas emissions that a company is directly responsible for. Think emissions from a fleet of company-owned vehicles. Scope 2 emissions are greenhouse gas emissions that a company is indirectly responsible for, primarily resulting from the generation of electricity purchased and consumed by the company. Scope 3 greenhouse gas emissions are all other indirect emissions not accounted for in Scope 2 emissions, resulting from upstream or downstream activities in a company's value chain, such as emissions associated with the production and transportation of goods a company purchases from third parties, or employee commuting, or business travel. Next, let's look at ESG reporting in the US. According to the CAQ's most recent analysis of S&P 500 companies, virtually every S&P 500 company reports some form of ESG-related information, and almost 94% report certain greenhouse gas emissions information. Public companies are increasingly seeking assurance over their ESG-related information, with GHG emissions being the most commonly assured information. The number of companies seeking assurance over certain ESG metrics increased by 13% from 2020, with 65% of reporting companies obtaining assurance over some ESG information. Of the companies who assured their ESG information, 18% engaged a public company auditor. The majority of companies who use a public company auditor to assure their ESG information use the same firm that performed their financial statement audit. So what role does the public company auditor play in ESG assurance? Auditors have a distinct skill set steeped in bringing accountability, standards-based analysis, and objectivity to the review of company-reported information. Auditors are known to quickly adapt to the changing world around them. They have extensive experience incorporating subject matter experts into their engagements and work across a variety of industries. And auditors are already providing assurance over GHG emissions for major organizations like Coca-Cola, Netflix, and Nike. As we await the SEC's final rule, US public companies can prepare by understanding what gaps exist between their current climate-related reporting and the SEC's proposed climate reporting requirements, establishing effective governance and internal controls over their climate-related reporting, and consider engaging a public company auditor to assure their climate-related information.